Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to talk about Red Strike storage. And I had mentioned before that I was going to be doing something for this, and now finally I've got a chance to sit down, shoot a video to share with you guys. What I ended up doing was using the Aegis counter trays. I had made some tray dividers, which I will be sharing both on BGG as well as the Facebook group for Red Strike. So that way you can use them. They're going to be similar to what I've done already with using the counter trays and the GMT trays. Those were created by somebody else. Well, I've since used that same concept and have made counter trays for both the lock and load trays as well as the old Europa trays that I use for storing the 1985 series from Thin Red Line Games. So when I got the Aegis trays, they really hold a lot of counters, but I wanted to be able to break things down. So you're going to see when we take a look inside what I did. All right, so this is how things look when you take the top off. We've got about 1.5 inches of clearance or so between the top of the box and where the trays are. I have put all the hit markers, the 1 through 8s and then the 9 through 16s in separate bags because there's no point putting them in trays. You're just wasting trays because there's so many. There's so many of these 1 through 8s that you've just beaten up a whole entire tray and just putting redundant counters out there, and it's just a waste of space. So it's easier to use them out of the bag. We've got 3 trays here, and as I said, these are Aegis trays. I'm going to pull those out, and then there's all the documentation from the game. And how I broke it down is pretty straightforward. This is the NATO forces here in the first tray, starting off with the US here and then moving all the way through. The second tray is the remainder of the NATO forces, and then we get into the Soviet forces. Then we have the last couple of wells here in this last tray. These are going to be used for the minor countries, and then we start with the administrative counters. So taking a closer look at each of these different wells in the tray, like I said, NATO forces on the first tray starting with the US, and then you move on to each of the different countries from there. US here, we just break it down by numerical order, what the units are, put them side by side in the tray. Most of these units have 7, 8 counters. Some of them have 10, 12. If you have up to 8, you can fit in the Aegis tray with the tray dividers. So it'll be tight, and you're going to be pushing down that lid is going to be pushing up a little bit, but it's not going to pop off. So you don't want to really go higher than 8. If you go to 9, it's not going to work. So what you want to do is make sure you keep each of the stacks that you have in each of the trays in the dividers, you want to max it at 8. So if you have an 8 unit, you can put 8, and then if you got a 6 or 7 unit, you can put it, the next unit is 6 or 7 counters, you can put it next to it. If you have a unit that has 12 or 13 counters, for example, then you just split it up, 6 and 6, 7 and 6, whatever, and then you can easily fit them into one of the dividers. But I, as you can see, didn't have too much problem in getting the units into the different trays. Now, they will slide around a little bit, and that's fine. You can just adjust them. You don't have to worry about that because you can just easily sort those back to where they should be when you take the tray top off, like I just showed you there, just moving the counters around. Now, setting it up originally, when you put the counters in these different dividers, it's going to take a little bit of time, but that initial front load of effort is going to be a lot better when you're setting up your scenarios. And again, when you tear your scenarios down, you're going to be having to take those counters and put them into each of the trays. That's why it's always good to have a set way of doing it. Like, you know, you go in numerical order. So if you have your third or your fourth or your fifth unit, you just put in third, fourth, fifth. So that way, you know, you just go in numerical order. You got your 17th, your 21st, your 27th, you put them in that order. So that way you're consistent and you don't have to go hunting. Oh, where did I put these? Oh, I'll just put them here. And then you have, the next time you go to set up, you're like, where are those units at? I don't remember where I put it last time. So just always go in a logical order. It makes it a lot more easier for yourself to do. And like I said, this is all the NATO units. Now we'll take a look at the Warsaw Pact units. And in the next tray, we finish out the last of the NATO units and start with the Soviet units for the Warsaw Pact because they make up the bulk of the Warsaw Pact forces in the game. Again, break it down by fronts, Northern Front, Western Front, and then I get into the other fronts, South, Southwestern, so on and so forth. Then I break down the air units. I try to break them down by type, and here we've got so many of these MiG-27s and not as many 29s and 31s that I use just a 2 tray divider here. That way it's easier just to put all your 27s and your 29s and 31s there. Put all the SUs, the TUs, all those are broken down by type in each of the different trays. Same for the naval units here, broke down the subs by type. You got your alphas, your charlies, your echoes, your Juliets, your Kilos, Typhoons, Victors, all that is broken down there. Then at the top, we start off with the remainder of the Warsaw Pact forces, all the minor countries. Then we finish out the last of the minor countries for the Warsaw Pact, and we start with the administrative counters. And you can see this is a mix of 3 dividers and just leaving some of them taking up the entire well, and then there's another 2 divider here, so that way I could break things down where it would fit. And of course, some markers have a lot of counters, so you just stick with those. You just put them all in one tray, like the missile markers, you put those all in one tray. The out of supply, the destroyed, things like that, you just leave them into each of the individual trays. Then when it comes to these, you've got your hasty assault, your declared combat breakthrough, supply levels, all that stuff. I'm probably going to readjust this after playing some more, because I'm going to decide what as far as the order of things that I'm going to be drawing from the trays during play. I want to make sure that everything is close together. So the things that I need are close together, which is what I tried doing here. Like, you've got your cap detected for both the Warsaw Pact and NATO here. They're close together. Like, there's your cap detected for NATO. There's your cap detected for Warsaw Pact. I try to keep the counters that were the same for both sides, were very similar. I try to keep those close together, so you didn't have to go hunting. You didn't have your NATO counters here, your Warsaw Pact counters here, which is how I was originally going to do it. But then I says, you know what? I'm going to put them like to like based on the use in the game and just match them up when it comes to their tray location. But that's what I'm doing now. And again, this is going to be refined over time. That's what I always do with any of my storage. I'll refine it over time and find out what actually works best for me. So that's a look at how I have broken down Red Strike for myself. Like I said, I'll probably be refining it over time, especially for the admin markers, because from playing, you're going to find, hey, you know what? I really need this marker here or over there to suit your own needs. Like I said, you got to build it for yourself. You got to set it up for yourself. And this is what I do. From my own experience in setting up other games, I'm just following the same format that I always use. So hopefully some of the ideas that you see here will help you guys in storing your own games. And that way you can make it easier to set up. You can get it on the table a lot faster, and you can play it more often. And of course, these ideas are not limited to just Red Strike. They can be used for any game that you have. You always try to make sure you maximize your storage space and that you make it flow in a logical manner so it's easier to set up and get going. And like I said, I'll be posting up the tray dividers for these trays up on the Facebook group for Red Strike, as well as on the BGG page. So that way you guys will have a couple locations that you can get them from and use them. Just use cardstock, cut, fold, glue, let them dry, put them in a well, put your counters in. That's it. It's really not difficult. As I've mentioned in some of the other videos, I do take another step, which you really don't need to do with these Aegis trays, but I still do. I'll even use my counter clippers and I'll round the corners. You really need to do that more in the GMT trays because they're more narrow, and especially at the bottom, they kind of narrow down a little bit more towards the bottom. So you do need to round those dividers a little bit to get them fit. The Aegis trays don't have that problem. The Aegis trays are a lot better in that regard. The Aegis trays are a lot better in many regards, which is why I like them. I wish the top was a little bit better, but still, it's easy to use once you get used to it. But these are fantastic trays. If you don't already have a set of them, definitely pick up a set. They're a little more expensive than GMT trays, but they're really worth it. And the tray lids lock in real well. Well, I hope you found this video helpful and informative. Maybe you can use some of these ideas for not only Red Strike, but your other games as well, as I said before. Well, if you have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.